Hello, this is Spartan Commander, and this is the 161st Rome Total War Brotherhood game that I've put onto YouTube. The team I'm in today consists of Brotherhood member Turbo. He often calls himself LANDO now, but actually it's Brotherhood member Turbo who's bought the Rome SPQR faction. And then we have Greek clan member Vengeance, who has bought the Pontus faction. A faction that's not very often bought to the 31k battlefield. And then we have Brotherhood member Legion 22, who has bought the Rome Brutio faction. And then myself, Spartan Commander, who has bought the Rome SPQR faction. So there's our team there. I think you'd agree a lot of experienced players there, but you wait till you see the other team. I think this has got the ingredients to be a classic game, and I think it could be a close one too. I hope you enjoy it. At this stage of the battle, I thought we'd have a look at Greek Vengeance's Pontus army. As I said earlier, Pontus is a rarely bought faction to the 31k battlefield. As you can see here, I think he's got 15 pike units. If you notice, the Pontus pikemen have got very long pikes. And as I say, if you're a Roman general and you attack them head on, then fighting down those long pikes to get to the infantry on the other end is always a problem. So yeah, as you see, he's got 15 pike units there. And then we move on to their heavy chariots. These are their scythed chariots here. If you look at them there, you can see the size on the wheels of the chariots. And also you can see that they've actually got spikes, if you like, on their horses as well. These chariot units have got a fear factor where they scare enemy units, but also these particular chariots will run amok, and if they run amok they'll kill both friend and foe alike. So it's always a bit of a gamble bringing chariots, because they can be battle changing units, but if they do run amok they can kill, as I said, both friend and foe alike, and can become a menace on the battlefield there. Let's see, I think he looks like he's got about 4 maybe units of the heavy chariots there, and then he's got his chariot archers here. As you can see there, you've got the one driver of the chariot and 2 archers there. These are fast moving units, and they can do a lot of damage, and of course when the enemy charge their cavalry to try and counter them, because they're fast moving units, they can get away from that heavy cavalry. So they're quite useful units to have. So there's that Pontus army. It looks quite effective. Should be interesting to see how well it does. And here is the other team. We have King's member TIGRANUS, so King's TIGRANUS there, who's bought the Rome Julio faction. And then we have Brotherhood member LIONDWARF, who's also bought the Rome Julio faction. I like his formation there. It's like the old-fashioned checkered board formation there. And then we have a Brotherhood member Racer X, who's also bought the Rome Julio faction. And then we have RTW player Ink. A lot of 31k players watching this will have probably played with Ink before. He's quite a good 31k player. So I think looking at this team here, this is going to be a real challenge today, and hopefully you'll enjoy this battle. Let's see how it goes. At this very early stage of the battle, even before we've formed up, you can see that the Pontus general here is bringing his archer chariots forward there. Trying to do a lot of damage to the enemy as they're starting to form up there, because obviously as Roman infantry moves, if they're hit by archer fire, it does cause casualties there. As I say, these chariot archer units are fast moving. They can fire arrows as they're actually riding along as well, so they're a very useful unit that kind of needles the enemy as well. At this very early stage of the battle, you can see that the enemy Scipio general has brought his cavalry out to my left flank there, very close to my infantry as well, in a very threatening manner. Looks like he'd like to charge into the flank of my infantry there, but with my allies' cavalry and my allies' cavalry backed up, my cavalry backed up behind my infantry, I wouldn't think that they would do that. As you can see here, our ally here, Legion, with his Brutii army, has moved forward a long way. And if you look over to our right flank, you can see that Brotherhood member Turbo, with his SPQR army, is doing a right flanking action there. and you can also see the Pontus chariot archers there moving around to the right as well. Now if you look at the enemy team here, you can see that 3 of their armies are forming like a big defensive formation there. It seems very dense, that formation, and is almost inviting an attack there. But it'd be interesting to see what the tactic is, why they're actually doing that, because I can see that the Scipio general there is moving over to their right, obviously over to our left there. Plus I noticed that Scipio cavalry is still there as well, poised to attack. In fact, looking at the Julii army that was facing me, plus the Scipii army that is coming across, it looks that maybe part of their battle plan there was maybe to target my army here, over on our left flank. Because I see that they've moved the Scipii army right over from their far flank over to this flank. So that's why I'm thinking that maybe they may be looking to do a double attack on my army there. Be interesting to see if that is the tactic they thought of as the battle moves on. As you can see over on our far right flank here, Turbo with his SBQR army is doing a right flanking action still, trying to turn the infantry to face him here, the enemy infantry to face him, and as you can see the enemy Julii army is now facing outwards to face him. You notice the Pontus, our Pontus allies moving forward as well. So I noticed that the Julii army's flank is a little bit exposed to the pikes if they wanted to make the most of that. Meanwhile, over on our left flank here, you can see that the enemy Julii infantry are moving over as well as the enemy Scipii infantry. As I say, my thoughts here are that it looks like they may be trying to double or maybe even treble my my army here in probably a lightning attack that they might hope would take my army out with their numbers, but we'll just have to see what's happening. You see I've moved my infantry back a little bit there. I don't want to be too exposed, because if that's their plan to try and mass attack me, if you like, I don't want to be too isolated from my allies, as obviously I'll need some support. Meanwhile, over on our right flank here, you can see that Brotherhood member Turbo is now engaged with our Brotherhood member LIONDWARF there, the Julii member there. So as you can see, there's a fierce little tussle going on over on the right flank. So that'll be interesting to see what happens over on that right flank. Meanwhile here, over on our left flank here, if you notice that the enemy seems to be moving over there quite quickly. Back over on the right flank here, can you see our Pontus ally is now moving pikemen over to help our SBQR ally, plus our Brutii ally is sending cavalry over to support as well. So with those Pontus pikemen moving in, plus the cavalry charging as well, over on that right flank looks up in the air at the moment. Right, can you see the enemy Scipii cavalry charging into the flank of our Brutii ally there? A nice little cavalry charge there. If you notice, it went in at an angle. Let's just pause the game here for us to take stock of the situation at the moment. As you can see, the enemy Scipii army is facing my SBQR army and my Pontus pikeman ally, who sent some pike units over. As you can see, the Pontus heavy chariots here, my thoughts would move round to the left and get in behind the enemy if they can. As you can see, as I said earlier, that Scipii cavalry charge going in at an angle there has caused a lot of casualties to our Brutii ally there. And also you've got the enemy Julii infantry poised to attack as well. If you notice that I think it's a lot of Tigranus' army now is moving over to the left flank here, probably with a view to try and take out our SBQR ally and maybe even take out those Pontus pikemen that were sent there to support him as well. So it'd be interesting to see whether our right flank will be able to hold there, bearing in mind there seems to be a lot of enemy reinforcements going over. There's a close-up of the Pontus pikemen. You can see how long their pikes are there. As I said earlier, very difficult for Roman troops to attack them head-on, as they've got to fight down the length of those pikes to get to the infantry that's actually holding them. So there's an overall view of the battlefield there. Remember that the enemy Scipii are blue and the enemy Julii are red. So it's a blue and red against Pontus, purple SPQR and green Brutii. There, that's our team. As you can see over on our right flank, there's a lot of enemy reinforcements. Let's just pause the game for a second to take stock of what's actually happening here. If, veterans watching this, I should imagine, have noticed there's a gap in between our armies. Can you see where the enemy could pour through? If you notice between Pontus and our Brutii ally there is a gap forming which they've seen. Maybe cavalry and infantry could come through there and then either attack right or left. So that's a little bit of a tactical problem we've got there in the centre. Meanwhile, over on our right, you can see that our SPQR ally is getting a real pounding from the Julii enemy there. Sorry, that was on our right. And over on our left, you can see that we're also being attacked here on our left flank. But with pikeman units over here as well, it makes it difficult for the enemy to use their cavalry anywhere near those pikemen. So they're obviously going to try and attack our Brutii ally there. And if you notice, there's a lot of cavalry and a lot of enemy infantry going into our Brutii ally there. If you notice, I'm charging my 5 units of cavalry in there. And if you notice that our Pontus ally is now moving his heavy chariots round behind the enemy units there. Nice little tactical move with the chariots. And also he's moving his pike units that he sent over to reinforce us there, moving them around on the left as well. Now if we could combine our cavalry and chariot hits right onto the enemy there, we could cause a lot of routers, because remember, those chariots cause fear amongst enemy troops. Right, can you see, just going to pause the game here for a second. Right, can you see our Brutii allies cavalry, the Pontus chariots and my cavalry charging all in together into the enemy armies there, into the enemy army there. So we got Pontus chariots plus 2 lots of cavalry going in there in a combined charge. I think also I should throw my infantry in as well once the cavalry hits, and we should get a lot of enemy units to rout there. Right, can you see I'm throwing my infantry in as well there, my SPQR infantry. If you notice, the enemy Julii cavalry is sending in their cavalry there as a counter attack. But if you notice, with all the chariots we're using plus our SPQR cavalry and our Brutii cavalry, plus, as I said, you saw me throw in my SPQR infantry as well, we're causing a lot of casualties there to the enemy. The only trouble with using chariots in this type of part of the battle is that if they run amok, then they're liable to kill, as I said earlier, both friend and foe alike. So I haven't seen any of the chariots run amok yet, so let's hope that they don't. Meanwhile, over on our right flank here, you can see that our SPQR ally and the Pontus reinforcements that were sent over to help him are really being pounded by the Julii infantry and cavalry here. So I just hope they'll be able to hold.
The enemy general is slain, and now his men
as that Julii cavalry comes in and bang! As you notice the impact of all that Julii cavalry charge in there. Our allies looking quite a really stressed and delicate position over there on the right. Okay then, can you see now over here on the left, can you see the flashing banners of red banners going on and off? Okay, that's where the Pontus chariots have now run amok. Okay, so what that basically means is they're run out of control. They're just riding around killing anybody that's in their way. And if you notice, this particular chariot is right in the middle of my SPQR infantry. So that chariot now will be mowing down loads of my infantry at the moment, because, as I say, it's run amok. And that's why very often a lot of people don't bring chariots to the battlefield, because taking the chance that they'll run amok like that is a real problem. And if you notice, there's some more of their chariots here that's run amok. Now those chariots belong to Pontus, but those Pontus chariots will be killing Pontus pikemen as well. So that's why I say, when you bring chariots to the battlefield, you should be very careful where you use them, and always be aware that they can run amok and kill both friend and foe alike. So if you notice now, we're trying to press home our attack on the enemy Julii and Scipii forces here. If you notice that Legion sending in his Brutii cavalry, and bang, as that cavalry hits. Can you see I'm sending in my SBQR cavalry as well. My SBQR cavalry is extremely battle damaged, but I'm trying to make the most of them, charge them in again. If you notice, a lot of the enemy Julii infantry is starting to rout there. Right, just going to pause the game here for us to take stock of the situation. As you can see here, you got the enemy Scipii infantry and Julii infantry there in the centre on the left. But meanwhile, over on our right, after a really fierce battle, our right flank has finally given way, and so our right flank has now been taken. And there's a heck of a lot, if you can see, of enemy Julii forces over on our right flank. Meanwhile, over on our left and our left centre there, you can see that it looks to me like we might be winning here on the left centre. See, we've got a lot of Pontus pikemen still to commit here, coming in on the left. So it looks to me like the enemy, after a fierce battle, have won on our right, but it looks like we may well carry the day here on the left here. If those victorious Julii troops on that right flank move over quick enough, though, that could have been a pivotal part of the battlefield. If they move across to us, they could maybe hit us in the flank and maybe turn the battle there. Right, as you can see now, there's a heck of a lot of enemy Julii forces left. Lots of infantry, lots of cavalry.
If they had discipline, they would.
And if you look at most of our units, you'll see that most of them are pretty battle damaged. So this battle is kind of moving into stage 2 now, and it's still very much up in the air and is in a real balance. Just to say, Pontus pikemen are quite good, but Pontus's morale is not very good. If a couple of their units start to rout, it could really cause a chain rout of their units there. So I just hope Pontus manages to kind of hold it together there against all these enemy forces. Remember, our team is Brutii green, SBQR purple, and Pontus. The enemy are Julii red and Scipii blue, just so when you look at the battlefield you can tell in one go who's who. Right, can you see our Brutii ally there has charged in to the Julii enemy there, and he aimed for the general. Remember, if we can kill the general, that lowers the morale of the troops. I know we've said this in several battle videos before, but it's a really good tactic if we can target their general. Right, if you notice, I've moved my SBQR army forward, as well as our allies' Brutii army forward. So we're now in an attacking mode, if you like. And if you can see over on the far left, the enemy Scipii and Julii infantry are moving towards us as well. If you notice here, can you see our allies' Brutii cavalry charging into the back of the engaged Julii infantry there. Nice tactical move there. Remember, with cavalry, if you can get in behind the engaged enemy troops and hit them hard, you usually get a few routs. Right, if you notice here, a lot of the enemy Julii infantry are attacking the Pontus pikemen head on. Now, do you remember what we've said in other battle videos? If you attack pikemen, especially pikemen with long pikes, head on with Roman infantry, is something that a lot of Roman generals won't do. They much prefer to get units around the flank. If they do attack them head on, it's to try and hold them while they move units around the flank. If you notice my battle damage SBQR cavalry, I'm charging into the back of the engaged Julii infantry. If you notice, I went for the general. Can you see the general there with my units? But there just wasn't enough of my cavalry left really to cause much impact there. Let's just pause the game for a second for us to take stock of what's actually happening. As you can see there, you've got enemy Julii infantry and cavalry coming in behind us here. Remember, pike units' weak spots are their flanks and their rear, and Obviously the Julii general there is trying to get round the back. If you notice, my Pontus ally has positioned a pike unit facing backwards to protect my unit's rear there. A nice bit of teamwork there by Pontus ally. If you notice though, there's a heck of a lot of Julii forces left there. And a lot of there's several battle damaged Scipio units left as well, ready to attack. But when you're fighting pike units, if you can get units around the flank and get them around to the rear, then that's really what you should do. If you attack them head on, that's really what the pike general wants you to do. Remember that, new players watching this. If you do attack pike units head on, just do that to hold them, where you get units in behind them.
Fear makes a home in our enemies' hearts.
If you notice, the Julii units here are trying to get in behind the Pontus pikemen, as I've just said.
To fill the heart of the enemy general with fear. Now he flees the field like a coward.
As you can see there, the Julii infantry are trying to press home an attack on those Pontus pikemen. But as I said, new players watching this, if you notice, you can attack with your Roman infantry as much as you want at the front of pikes, but usually they will hold. The trick here now is to try and get behind them or attack their flank if you can. If you notice, the Pontus general now is formed like, if you like, a little box where he's got pike units facing every direction, so that he's covering the rear and flank of each unit. It's a nice tactical move there by the Pontus general. Okay, so now it makes it very difficult for Rome to try and get to the flanks or the rear of those engaged Pontus units because of the formation, the defensive formation that he has formed with those Pontus pikemen. Okay, if you get a close look there, you can see that he's got pike units facing every direction, so each unit is kind of defending the other unit there. If you notice, my SBQ infantry are being attacked there by both Scipii and Julii forces, but my SBQ infantry is still managing to hold. If you notice, my general is a little bit exposed at the back of my troops, and can you notice the enemy's seen that, and bang, charging in hits to try and take my general out. The years of experience that people have got on this battlefield, they also know that if they can take my general out, that'll lower the morale of my troops. If you notice, the Julii cavalry charging in as well, charging into my general. I think I've only got about 6 or 7 troops left in that general unit, so it could well be routed, or the general could even be killed there. There you go. My general unit has just been routed, so the morale of my troops will now drop. Nice little tactical move, nice little tactical charge there by the enemy team.
Your general's nerve has broken, and he is fleeing from
Okay, let's just pause the game for a second here. As you can see, there's lots of Julii cavalry and infantry left, but there's also a lot of Pontus pikemen left as well. I've got a few SBQR units that are very battle damaged left as well, and we've got, I think there's a couple of our allies' Brutii units left as well there. I'd just like to say, I thought the way the Pontus faction's been handled today has been very effective on this in this battle here. You can see the Julii cavalry there charging in. We're looking to go into the back of a Pontus pike unit there, but the pike unit turned a little bit faster than expected, so they obviously had to pull their cavalry back, because obviously you don't want to charge cavalry into forward-facing pikes there. But if you notice now that basically a lot of the Julii units have been routed, there's only a few Julii infantry units left, and if they try and attack those Pontus units head on, then it will be pretty ineffectual, really, by doing that.
The enemy's hearts are full of fear, and now they flee.
It looks like at this stage of the battle that our team's managed to have, after a fierce battle, has managed to go on and seem to have won this at the moment. I think, looking at this I still see there's still some cavalry units out there. If you notice, they're charging into my SBQR infantry, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to charge into those cavalry units with those infantry units. So that kind of meets the charge bonus of my infantry charging into the cavalry and the cavalry charge bonus, and it kind of equals it out a little bit there. If I just stood there and took the impact of that cavalry, then obviously I would take the full cavalry charge bonus, but because I charge my infantry in as well, then it kind of evens things up a bit. Remember what I've said to you about when you charge a cavalry in? If you charge a cavalry in and leave them in too long against infantry, the infantry will usually win. If you notice there, most of those Julii cavalry, I know they were battle damaged, but they were stayed in so long there that the infantry managed to rout them there. If you notice here, can you see how the two Pontus pike units there, like a vice closing in on that Roman unit there? If you notice, another Julii enemy unit has got in behind the Pontus pikemen, so they're just turning to face them, and then I'm charging my SBQR infantry in as well, and we've managed to I think that's the last of their units to rout there. And it looks like, as I said, our team seems to have gone on to win. First thing I'd like to say is really well played to everybody in the game. It was a really close victory, and it was a really close game there. And I'd like to draw your attention to the Pontus general there, Greek Vengeance. If you notice that Pontus is a very rarely bought faction to the 31k battlefield, but look at the kills that they've got there, highest kills on the battlefield there. So really well done to Pontus there. And new players watching this, never be frightened to try new factions. If you handle them properly and you've got good allies, you can really make a difference on the battlefield with these different factions. So really well done to everybody in the game. Some great attacking moves there by the enemy, and some really nice teamwork and support on our team as well. If you've liked this battle and other Brotherhood battles, please subscribe to our channel, where you will be automatically informed when the next battle is ready to watch. This is Spartan Commander saying bye for now. See you soon.